He was born where fire stayed, clay and smoke in borrowed hands. When books were dreams for other names, he learned the weight of land. They said the world was not for him, school doors closed too soon. So he shaped his days with empty palms and sold his nights by noon. He didn't know the words for hope, but hope knew where he stood. Life taught in every lesson the hard way like it should. He lived it all without a map, through broken years and sleepless gaps. He lived it all, no crown, no fame, but every scar still knew his name. They say he was late to learning, but he was never late to life. He married love from the same old street, while war took his own blood away. A mother bent beneath the weight of prayers she couldn't say. Freedom came and left too fast. Another war, another run. They wed between the falling sounds. Before the smoke was done, he lost, he served, he waited long. 5 years in borrowed green, came back to raise 6 beating hearts on fields and factory dreams. He lived it all through work and dirt, through hunger, burn, and quiet hurt. He lived it all when times were thin. He gave his back so they could win. They say he was late to learning, but he was never late to life. When clay gave way to steel and light, he laid the kiln aside. Became a man of soil and rain, with nothing left to hide. He watched his children leave the nest. He stayed and let them fly. Then 90 years he learned the cost of one last goodbye. She went ahead into the sky. He stayed with words he never learned, until one day a gate stood open and the classroom finally turned. He lived it all and still began with trembling hands, an older man. He lived it all, and now he knows it's never late to let hope grow.
was born where fire stayed in a house of clay and prayer. Smoke rolled lines upon the sky while faith hung in the air. Hands were rough before they grew, time was never kind. Books belonged to other lives, work was all he'd find.
The kiln kept breathing through the night, red like a restless heart. Before he knew the world's cruel names, the fire taught him how to start. In a house of fire and clay, he learned to stand and stay when words were few and dreams within his hands became his way. In a house of fire and clay, where nothing came for free, he didn't choose the life he had, but he learned who he would be.
Sunday bells and whispered prayers, crosses on the wall. Hope was quiet, hunger loud, but both were taught to fall. While empires carved the days apart and called it history, he shaped tomorrow, one small bowl for coins and family. They said the times were not for school, they said the road was set. But fire remembers every touch, the world won't soon forget. In a house of fire and clay, he learned to stand and stay when lessons came in broken forms and nights refused the day. In a house of fire and clay, no future guaranteed. He gave the fire his youth and took what strength it'll leave. If you ask him where it began, he won't say pain or blame. He'll say the fire, the clay, the hands that never learned his name. In a house of fire and clay, a quiet life was formed before the wars, before the loss, before the uniforms. In a house of fire and clay, where faith and hunger lay, a man was made before the world could take his way. Smoke rises, fire stays, a life begins in fire and clay.
I stood outside the morning bell, heard lessons through the wall. Names were written on the board, but none of them were mine at all. The door stayed shut, the window high, the letters learned to wait. Books belong to other lives, mine learned the weight of fate. I traced the alphabet in dust, with hands too tired to play. If no one had a price to pay, I couldn't pay that day. The classroom stayed closed, but the questions didn't. followed me home, into work and into sleep. The classroom stayed closed, but the dream stayed wide. Learning walked beside me even when I couldn't step inside. Chalk flew like a foreign snow, I watched it melt away. My hours were counted by the sun, not by the words they'd say. They learned their futures page by page, I learned to lift and say. Every answer found my back, every silence rang a bell. I wasn't lazy, I was late to a world that wouldn't bend. The curiosity kept knocking at a door that wouldn't end. The classroom stayed closed, but the questions didn't. They grew with every year. The classroom stayed closed, but the hunger stayed for a language I could hear. If learning is a long, long road, I started on the side. Every step I took in work kept knowledge in my sight. The classroom stayed closed, but time turned slow. One day the door would know my name. The classroom stayed closed, but not forever. Some dreams just wait for a different flame. I didn't stop believing, I just learned elsewhere. My hands learned circles before I learned my name. The wheel kept turning, never asked me why or when. Clay stayed quiet, but it listened well. Every bowl I ever shaped had something it could tell. I didn't know the letters, I knew the heat and weight. Fire doesn't wait for answers, it teaches you to stay. I was the boy who shaped the clay when words were far away. I bent my days into small round things that learned how not to break. I was the boy who shaped the clay with smoke in every grave. The fire took my youth and gave strength I had left. Morning sold what night had made, coins counted out the pain. Every crack became a lesson, every loss a gain. I watched the world from dirty hands turn fast and speak in books, but life was teaching me its rules in places no one looks. They called it simple labor, I called it how I grew. The wheel kept asking one true thing: what will you do?
where fire kissed the skin. If this was not an education, tell me what has been. If knowledge has 1,000 doors, I came in through the flame. Some lessons burn their way inside and never leave the same. I was the boy who shaped the clay before the wars began, before the loss, before the call that turned the boy to man. I was the boy who shaped the clay, and every bowl still knows a future doesn't start with words, it starts with what you hold. The wheel turns, the fire stays. A boy becomes what his hands can make. Sarabongo Gary me.
She lived 3 doors down from mine. Same dust, same sky. We learned the days by borrowed light and passing time. No letters written, no grand plans, just knowing how to stay. Two quiet lives lean toward each other that way. The world was loud with other wars, but ours was small and true. In streets that taught us how to wait, love slowly grew. She was the girl from the same street, the one who knew my name before I knew what love could be or how to say. She was the girl from the same street, no promise dressed in gold. We didn't dream of changing worlds, just growing old. We shared the silence after work and rice that barely filled. Her laughter made the longest days feel shorter still. When fear came knocking late at night, she stayed, she didn't run. Some loves are built from every day, not from the sun. We didn't ask for easy lives, we asked for one more day, side by side, in whatever way. She was the girl from the same street, through hunger, loss, and rain. When everything around us changed, fade. She was the girl from the same street before the wall grew wide, before the wars, before the years she stood beside. She was the girl from the same street, and still if I look back, every road I ever walked leads to that same street, same light, a lifetime inside.
He folded his name into a uniform and left it at the door. Boots on dirt, no looking back, we knew what that meant for. The road swallowed his footsteps before the sun could rise. Mother's hands stayed pressed together, learning how to cry. They called it duty, called it fate, called it something grand. But all I saw was my brother leaving as a man. My brother went to war and the house grew small. Every sound became a question, every night a wall. My brother went to war and silence learned our names. Mother prayed the same words twice so God would hear the pain. Letters came like broken clocks, sometimes not at all. Each day waited by the door for footsteps down the hall. Mother's back bent lower with every passing year. Faith was all she carried when hope wouldn't appear. They spoke of flags and victories, but none of that came home. Learn the weight of waiting in rooms of skin and bone. My brother went to war and time stood still. We ate our meals in quiet, swallowing the will. My brother went to war and childhood disappeared. A house can lose a person and keep the fear. If history remembers him, it won't know what we lost. It won't count the sleepless nights or measure mother's cost. My brother went to war and prayers filled the air. Mother's tears became the words she couldn't spare. My brother went to war and we grew old inside. Some battles stay at home long after soldiers die. The door stayed closed, the prayer stayed lit. a family learned to wait. Her back bends lower every night before the candle fades. She speaks no words, just folds her hands and lets the silence pray. Names hover in the rising smoke, she doesn't say them loud. Some prayers are too heavy to let the world around. She swallows tears like daily bread, keeps faith where fear has been, repeats the same small sentence till it wears the night thin. She prays with her back, not with her voice, carries the weight of no real choice. She prays with her tears, with breaths she saves. The house stands still because she stays. Rice steams up the morning air, his name is in the room. Waiting learns to take a shape and time becomes her womb. Each year leans into her spine like it knows the way. Hope doesn't knock anymore, it kneels and stays. There's no news meant for her ears, no ending she can hold. So faith becomes a daily task, quiet, worn, and old. She prays with her back through endless nights. The world keeps moving out of sight. She prays with her tears, doesn't ask why. The children grow by watching her try. History won't write her name or count the nights she lost, but every life that made it through still lives because it cost. She prays with her back bent toward the sky, gives everything without a reply. She prays with her life, not looking for grace, and somehow leaves the world a place. Not every prayer is answered. Some hold us together. Streets learned how to smile again, flags in borrowed light. Names we weren't allowed to say fell softly through the night. We breathed like we had never breathed. The world felt new and wide. Freedom stood beside us just long enough to wave goodbye.
They said the chains were broken, they said the dawn had come, but dawn forgot to stay with us. It turned
begun. Songs were cut in half by fear, parades by sudden sound. The same streets learn new footsteps running, not looking down. We traded flags for sirens, hope for maps and scars. Peace became a rumor from far. History doesn't warn you when it turns the page. One moment you are celebrating, the next you're afraid. Freedom came, but freedom didn't stay. The sky split open anyway. We held tomorrow in our hands, then watched it come undone. Freedom came, but freedom didn't stay. Another war had just begun. If freedom is a fragile thing, it needs a place to land. We learned it can be taken back faster than it's planned. Freedom came, but freedom didn't stay. It left us standing in between, not slaves, not safe, just learning how to live inside the seam. Freedom came, but freedom didn't stay. But still, we stay. Freedom passed like summer rain, enough to know what might have been. We stood where walls were broken, borrowed light, borrowed room. The sound of guns kept time outside while candles fought the gloom. No white dress, no marching song, just hands that wouldn't shake. We promised what tomorrow could while tomorrow burned away.
They said the world was ending, but we were starting small. If love can live in chaos, it can live it all.
We married between the guns while the sky was torn in two. No vows were louder than the fear, but love still made it through. We married between the guns with nothing safe or sure. If peace was not a place to stand, we chose each other more.
Rice steamed like a fragile prayer in a room without a door. The past ran fast behind our backs, the future hit the floor.
Her eyes said stay, mine said run. We did a little both. Some unions aren't about the dream, they're about the oath.
No priest could stop the shaking ground, no song could calm the air.
So we let silence bless us and call that care. between the guns. When nights forgot their names, the world kept asking us to break. We answered, same. We married between the guns and learned what strong could mean. Not never falling down, but standing in between. If history counts the battles won, it won't remember this. Two people choosing us inside the fall. And his, we married between the guns before the smoke could clear. Love didn't wait for better days, it married here. We married between the guns, and somehow years would prove the quiet choices made in fear can still outmove. No bells, no peace, just hands that held.
I buttoned up a borrowed name, green cloth borrowed tie, left my heart on a kitchen table, crossed another line. Trains learn how to take me further than before. 5 winters learned my footsteps on a foreign floor. They said I'd come back changed. They didn't say how long. Some changes grow in silence while waiting learns its song. 5 years in uniform, miles from where I'm known. Every night I fold your name into my own. 5 years in uniform, learning how to stay strong enough to miss you every day.
Letters move like careful birds, sometimes late, sometimes not. Your handwriting held the house in every dot. The world kept turning loudly. I learned the quiet cost, how love can live in absence without getting lost.
Counted days by shadows, by drills and fading light.
Hope wore the same small jacket every night.
5 years in uniform, time learned how to bend. I carried you through marches to the end. 5 years in uniform, is within. If duty asks for everything, it never asks the rest. But love keeps breathing anyway inside the chest. 5 years in uniform, I lay it down at last. Step back into small breaths around the room, rice steaming thin. Morning asks the same old question, where do we begin? My hands remember heavier days, but lighter plans. I learned the future has a sound when children laugh. I wasn't built for miracles, just staying on my feet. Some days the only victory was making ends meet. I'm the father of six, counting hope by meals, turning work into tomorrow, making worries kneel. I'm the father of six, no crown, no tricks. If love is how you show up daily, then that's what this is. Fields don't wait for better weather, they ask you now. I traded dreams for early mornings and learned how. Shoes passed down like quiet prayers, names called at night. I held the dark back with my back till morning light. I didn't promise easy roads, I promised to be there. Sometimes the strongest thing you do is stay and care. I'm the father of six, learning how to bend. Every child a different question, I answer with my hands. I'm the father of six, through hunger and fixings. I couldn't give the world to them, so I gave my everything. If strength is measured quietly by what you don't demand, then let the years remember me as a working man. I'm the father of six, and time keeps score. They grew wings from borrowed days and asked for more. I'm the father of six, and now I see all the lives I carried forward carry me. Six doors closing, six lights on, a house holds on.
The fire cooled behind my back, the wheel forgot my hands. Steel lights came to take the night and redraw all our plans. I bowed once to the kiln I knew, laid ash upon the floor, packed the years into my boots and stepped through another door. They called it progress, called it change. I called it learning how to keep the same old promises with different tools. Now from kiln to field, I changed to feeding rain, from kiln to field. I love the yield. The work looks new, the vow is still. The soil asked for early hands, no waiting for the sun. Seeds don't care what you recall, they care if you show up. I traded smoke for morning dew, heat for open sky. Learned how patience grows in rows, and hope learns how to rise. If dignity is staying fed, and children sleeping warm, then every honest kind of work is its own form. From kiln to field, through dust and grain, I fed tomorrow with today's pain. From kiln to field, no praise, no shield. I couldn't stop the turning world, so I turn with it. If work is how a man says yes to all he cannot choose, then let my hands remember both the finer roots, the final crew. From kiln to field, the years reveal I didn't lose. I learned to yield. From kiln to field, and standing still, I kept the one true thing I made, my will. Ash to soil, smoke to seed. Life adapts so others eat.
We tied the last small knots with care, straightened borrowed suits. Laughter filled the doorway once, then learned to leave the room. Their names grew lighter on our tongues, their steps learned how to go. A house remembers every sound after doors say no. I didn't give them answers, I gave them ground. So when the road got narrow, they wouldn't fall down. We gave them our backs to follow, not our hands to hold. Sometimes love is stepping aside so courage can get bold. We gave them our backs to follow at the edge of home. If they needed strength to leave us, we gave what we'd grown. Shoes by shoes, a life moved out, frames left on the wall. I learned the shape of quiet rooms After every call, I watch them choose their weather, choose a different sky. Pride and ache learned how to live in the same goodbye. If staying means becoming small and leaving means becoming true, then love must learn to let them go and still see you. We gave them our backs to follow. Through vows and open doors, we taught them how to walk away and come back more. We gave them our backs to follow. No rope, no chain, just the promise of a place if they ever came. If parenting is measured by the space you leave, then let the years remember me for what I didn't keep. We gave them our backs to follow, down roads we never chose. Every step they took alone is where our love still goes. We gave them our backs to follow and learned at last all the lives we sent ahead send us back. The door closes, the road opens, a house learns echoes. Your shoes are still by the door, like you might turn around. The house remembers how you moved in every little sound. I speak your name the quiet way, so silence doesn't break. Some loves don't end with goodbye. They change the way you wake. They told me time would carry you somewhere I can't see, but time just taught me how to walk with you inside of me. You were the love who went first, not the love I lost. You crossed ahead so I could learn the meaning of the cost. You were the love who went first. I stayed behind to pray. If heaven needed one of us, it chose the braver way. Your chair still leans into the light at the same old hour. I count the days by habits now that somehow still have power. We grew old in ordinary ways. No songs, no stage, but every quiet meal we shared outlived its age.
They call it grief, I call it love, with nowhere left to go. It settles in the breath I take, it moves when I move slow. You were the love who went first, ahead of all my fears. You carried half of my life into the years. You were the love who went first. I learned to live alone, but never learned to live a day that wasn't ours. If love is not what disappears, but what remains in place, then every wrong you ever touched still knows your face. You were the love who went first, and I will follow too. But not today, I still have prayers to finish here for you. You were the love who went first, and now I understand. Some goodbyes are just love changing hands. Sleep ahead of me, I'll walk slowly after.
Morning opens quietly on a borrowed gate. I step into the schoolyard a little late. Chalk dust, distant voices, pages turning slow. Things I never held before, now I know. I didn't come to chase the years or ask them what I missed. I came to stand where learning lies and call it this. I'm standing in the schoolyard with an older heart. Every lesson I was denied still found its start. I'm standing in the schoolyard, not to change my past, just to thank the road I walked for letting me last. I read the world the hard way first, with hands and days in pain. Now words arrive like gentle rain, calling my name. The desk feels small, the dream feels wide. Time learns how to bend when learning isn't about winning but reaching the end. I don't pray for more than this, no second life, no claim, just wisdom for the days ahead and peace for every name. I'm standing in the schoolyard with my head bowed low. Every life that crossed my path I carry home. I'm standing in the schoolyard and If knowledge comes in many forms, I wore them all. From fire and soil to waiting rooms to losses I recall. I'm standing in the schoolyard where my story ends, and somehow also starts again, as now and then. I'm standing in the school